Alrighty. I bet most of us growing up, we heard things from our parents that we couldn't understand, or they would try to instill values and we would just pass it off, or it goes in one ear and out the other. Or they said, you'll understand when you get older. Well, a wise man once said, by the time a man realizes that maybe his father was right, he usually has a son who thinks is wrong. Now, for me personally, I believe it's not limited to father and son. For me, it's mother and son. I grew up in a single-parent home. So, looking back, you would think of all the things my mom would try to teach me, or, oh, make sure you do your chores every day, this and that, and you always play it off, or this is a particular way you need to behave, or, how to be, my mom was trying to raise me to be a man. It was hard for her. Looking back now as you get older, you start to realize, you know what? Yeah, some of the, crap we thought back then, it makes sense. I don't have a son or a kid of my own, but we can realize as we get older, we get a lot more like our parents. We instill the same things they taught us. Now, personally, I know a lot of this has happened, especially in my family, because a few of my cousins, they come from single-parent homes too. My cousin Jessica, she has a 4-year-old, and she's 22, and the family helps her out a lot. But even just talking with her privately, we realized how she raises her son to be how she was raised. And I remember growing up how we were always yelled at or screamed at, or don't do this, don't do that, blah, 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 blah. And she does the same things. And then there's times with my mom especially, I realize things as you get older, a few things that she's taught about schoolwork or hard work or having dedication or patience, especially when she was teaching me to drive the first time. Like, you won't know this now, but when you get out there on your own, you'll realize a big difference it is from the passenger seat to the driver's seat. And then, just driving alone, noticing all the different distractions that could cause a driver, or notice how many stupid drivers there are who don't follow the rules. And you realize, why never take anything for granted that your parents say. Always take it to heart, because it always has a meaning. I was taught everything our parents do has a meaning. And eventually we'll come to understand it, even though we don't at the time we're told most of the time. And I've taken that to heart, and as I'm getting older, I realize most of this stuff is true, that we, not just our parents, anyone. I always agree, or I always not listen, I guess listen, but don't always, I always listen to whenever someone tells me, hey, this is advice, or this is a good idea. I always take it to heart. I believe this has a special meaning, and yeah. Oh. Already that's it, I think, yeah.
No, don't put that back.
Oh, you don't want it back?
No, please don't.
Oh, who becomes the king? Who becomes dictator? Where is that?
Besides presentation.
Hang on a second.
Who becomes dictator?
That's the wrong one.
The wrong one.
Yep. Take that with you. Hang on a second. All right, Eric, I thought that you had a pretty good reference to a shared experience at the beginning of the speech, and your point of view on the thesis was clear. There's not really a plan for the presentation. You kind of just get started talking about it, and as a result, you wander around. You did a pretty good job, though, developing some examples and illustrations. It just would have been helpful if there was a plot or a structure to them, so that would have made it a little bit more coherent. On the presentation issues, it's easy to hear you. I don't have any obvious problems with the vocal delivery. You got stuck in the one spot. That was one place where it broke up your fluency a little bit. There's some okay indicators. Your facial expressions seem appropriate. Your eye contact with the audience is intermittent. I think you have a tendency, you do look up, but you're looking out at the corners or up at the top of the room or down in front. You're not really looking at the audience. So it's not like you're staring down the whole time, but it never really feels like you engage. There are a couple of times that you look at the audience, but it's mostly in passing. There was maybe a little bit of anxiety at the beginning of the speech because you are shifting your feet side to side, and that looked a little bit awkward. It settled down after a minute or two, and then your movements seemed like they were more purposeful and part of what you were talking about as opposed to just anxiety related. All right, thank you. Andre, we'll have to figure that out after I get through the impromptu speeches, so just hold tight. Maybe somebody has an